Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm flying solo for the moment. That's right, my name is Tom Connors. Hope everybody's doing okay out there in YouTube land. It's been a while. We've been busy helping out some friends, doing other kind of streams this week, so figured might as well take the Thursday that I normally have off and stream for you guys. How's everybody doing? We got Mary, Ryo, Stu, Max, Peach. The great one is here. It's right, you are here. The Road Warrior 76, Keith Howard, River 727. How you guys doing? Cash Kester. All kinds of great listeners with us today. How's everybody doing? Hail. Oh, looky what we have here. We have my good friend Robert Meyer Burnett. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, man? You caught me at a great time. I got off my stream. I'm like, hey, I'll jump into your stream too.
Sounds good. I needed a friend.
I just dropped my 2-hour interview with Orville executive producer David Goodman.
Oh, nice. Any good revelations in that?
I don't know about revelations. We talked about his entire career. You know how
cool.
Yeah. So I when I do interviews with people, I'm more concentrating on like how their career unfolded and where it went. And so I'm not looking for, I want to learn more than anything else. And so it's not necessarily topical, but we do talk about the Orville's next season and the fact that they did have half the season in the can and how much bigger it is and things like that. So, we did get into that.
So they don't have the full season filmed? Is that what they said? Or?
Yeah, they don't.
Oops. Yeah, I heard rumors that they might have shut down early.
And
hopefully they pick back up. Yeah.
He said it's epic though. He says the season is.
That's what I've been hearing.
It's just gigantic. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say who, but I had talked to somebody who kind of talked to some other people, and that's what they were saying too. Is like this year everything's bigger. Sounds like they're really going to try and take advantage of being on Hulu. It sounded like from what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they talked about that at all.
Yeah. No, he did.
So that'll be cool. Other than that, how's things going with you, man? How are you handling the being stuck indoors and all that business?
Well, I've been so busy. I've just been so between doing the special features for the Hills Run Red, which we finished and they got announced. And then I've been also working on this Netflix show that's now it's unannounced, but I just finished work on episode 10. We're into the second season of this Netflix show that has yet to be announced. And It's amazing. Yeah.
Are they doing things now over at Netflix like they are other places where they're kind of bypassing the pilot season this year?
I think it's interesting because I think they have stuff in production all the time. So the traditional pilot season was more of a network issue. And now with streamers and cable and everything, it's kind of all the time. I mean, there's stuff being developed all the time. But I don't know. I don't know if they really keep a traditional model like that, to be honest.
That's true. Honestly, you're right. I don't, maybe they never have. So,
yeah.
Other than that, the big news was the two new Star Wars projects, both been rumored. We had the movie from Taika Waititi,
yeah,
and the new series, of course, from Leslie Headland. Where I don't know if you've been keeping up about her history or not, but
yeah, I mean, look, yes, I just know that I like Russian Doll a lot, and so I'm curious to see what they come up with. I mean, obviously there was a take delivered. See, here's the thing. Like I've been working for like 30 years and I've seen all different kinds of people in the business. And when you're navigating a career, I mean, it's really hard. Working in the entertainment business requires a lot of focus. And like my career, such as it is, has been eking out. I work in production, mostly post-production, but I've worked in production as well. So it's possible when you're working on things that you don't necessarily know what your overlords are doing. You know, if you're working in production, you're working in production. You're working on a show where your days have to be met. You have 12 hours and you have to shoot this many pages. And so you get immersed in production, and you could find out that your boss was your producer boss or somebody you work for turns out to be an abuser or a serial rapist or whatever. And you wouldn't even know because you're so busy on working in production. And
right.
And I think that because when you're working, there's different Hollywoods. And like I've told people, like I've dabbled, I've worked at agencies. I've worked as a reader, I was a staff reader at both CAA and William Morris. At one time I was working for both of them at the same time. But, your job is so specific and it requires your attention that you have no idea what is going on. Now, I'm not saying that's an excuse for enabling someone's bad behavior, but when you're when you're working in production, making a TV show, you're really busy and you don't have time to get up to shenanigans really. So it's kind of a different, it depends who you're working for, and what you're actually doing. So, I mean, I know that I liked Russian Doll and I know she was a co-creator of that. So again, I don't know much about it. I know she worked for Harvey Weinstein. I don't know really, but it's kind of an interesting, I mean, when you work in production, you don't have time to fuck around, right? Because there's so much work that needs to get done. But you have to remember, like, there's decisions. You don't, when you work in production, you're not usually going out to parties during the week, and you're exhausted. You're working the regular work day is 12 hours. Then there's to and from work and getting home and getting up and sleeping. I mean, the hardest jobs I've ever had are production jobs. So, right. I guess I have a different perspective on it.
Unless you're hopped up on like coke, like Josh Trank, and then you can have enough energy to trash a hotel room afterwards. But
I don't know. It's funny. I have to say, I did read the article.
Yeah.
I read that article with him, and I John Schnepp, the late great John Schnepp, was friends with Josh Trank and liked him. I've never met Josh Trank. But
he seems like he'd be a fun guy. But
when I was reading that article, I was like, dude, you made Chronicle. Everybody, see, here's the thing that people don't understand about the studio system. And I was talking about this today. When you get anointed and you get to make a studio movie, it's a test. It's a crucible. You are being judged not just by the studio that you're working for, but by all of the studios. You are proving whether or not you can work within the studio system. And that's playing politics. That's knowing how to talk and treat people. That's knowing your place in the pecking order. But that's also being creative. And you have to make a good movie while servicing everybody else that has agendas. It's rough. It's hard. That's why there's a list at any one time of maybe 10, if not 20 people that exist on a planet of 7 billion. There's 20 people at any one time. And usually, let's face it, there's like 5 really, but they can't get those 5 because those 5 are always busy. So there's 15 more in reserve. Right. If you are a studio approved director, you're a Top Gun graduate. You're the best of the best. And listening to Josh Trank talking about his experience directing Fantastic Four, about how he didn't want to deal with his writer and he didn't want his writer to meet with the studio. I mean, look, even though I was young and I was only a management trainee, I worked in Warner Brothers feature production for over a year. I worked for the senior vice president of physical production. And there's just the way you have to behave when you're working in the studio system. And it's not real hard. You got to keep your nose to the grindstone and you have to work. You have to play ball. That doesn't mean, and you also have to be prepared. They expect you to have a vision. But if you don't get along with your writer, like if you're hired to write a script, that's one thing. But if you're hired to direct a script that another writer has written, I'm reading what he was saying. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, who the fuck are you? And it made me realize everything that happened wrong on Fantastic Four was his fault. Right. I didn't believe it was his fault. It was his fault. Now, it was his fault. I think he would tell you it's his fault too. I mean, that's what reading that article, that's where I that's where I came away from.
Right. And that's kind of what, the guys reported here before. I wasn't here yet when they did the Fantastic Four reporting. Hi, Rob. Speaking of, you're late, by the way. You know that, right?
I mean, geez.
You're fired. You're on fire.
I know it now.
Robert, speaking of Robert,
like,
Robert Levito.
Tom is like ka-ching. Yeah, I don't have my sounds up. I keep saying Tom's like Cosmo Q Spacely. He fires me every episode. Jetson, you're fired. Yeah, so.
Wow, that's pretty good, dude.
Oh,
that was really good.
That's because
don't ask me to do
the Jetsons Blu-rays, so he's probably been watching.
Yeah.
Wow, are we live? I didn't know.
Yes, we absolutely are.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh.
Yeah, I did say that when you come in. You must not have heard me, but no, I've been enjoying the conversation. But the reason I asked you that in the first place, so hopefully you didn't say anything too, like you didn't want on the air.
No.
I didn't think you did. You normally don't. So
no, I mean, look. I would if Josh Trank was standing in front of me, I would tell him, I loved Chronicle.
Right.
I would be the first to tell him after reading that article about when you came clean with all this stuff. But kudos for him he was very candid. But I'd be like, what a fuck up, man! You fucked up. But
sure, Robert's here, and then everybody shows up.
But he knows. But he knew that. He knew that he fucked up, and he said he fucked up. But I was like that. The problem is, if you get the opportunity to direct a studio movie, it's the most important opportunity if you want to work in Hollywood of your life. And my advice to anybody is don't fuck it up.
Right. Well, in the interview you're talking about was in Polygon. I'm going to bring that up here since I was going to jump into the Disney story, but let's do that first. How you doing, Andre?
I'm good, thank you. And before bedtime, I decided to come and join you guys since I heard you're talking about Trank.
Yeah, hello, sir. It's good to be on with you.
Likewise. It's been way too long. How's it going?
I was talking about you today.
Really? Were you?
Yeah, because I watched your video about CBS Viacom, and then I read the report today about how that CBS All Access is now being rebranded over the summer.
Yeah, we were talking about that for the past couple of videos. We basically said that's business or PR speak for it's a failure and it's getting rebranded or rather merged into something else.
It's interesting. Like they dropped a bunch of Paramount movies on CBS All Access today.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be called whatever it is, it's not gonna be called CBS All Access. And it's interesting. I saw it as a natural evolution, Paramount. It was interesting because I thought that Paramount was either going to have an allegiance with or Netflix, like you've been talking about, would buy Paramount and CBS or Viacom or something like that, because they already had the alliance with Coming to America 2 and Beverly Hills Cop 4, and they talked about those things, and they're dropping movies.
Oh, I didn't hear about Coming to America 2. Is that going to Netflix as well?
Well, I think that part of that deal, was that it was going to go to Netflix, but now they've got their own streaming service, so or whatever they're going to do, but they haven't committed to Showtime yet, even though Showtime should be under that, and what everybody else is doing, how Universal has become, NBC Universal is now Peacock. You've got HBO Max, which is Warner Brothers. So in a way, the studios and the streaming services have become the new networks. The way we had ABC, CBS, and NBC. You guys all know this, but I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was CBS and Paramount. This is what they're doing as well.
Yeah, this is what we talked to Bill about like 3 years ago. Bill Hunt of the Digital Bits, where I swear we coined the term streaming wars. We probably weren't the first, but hello, Script Doctor as well. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. This is pleasant news to see because I was doing like house cleaning and dishes for last hour.
Well, I haven't streamed all week, so I figured I better do something because revenue's in the toilet. And then Robert showed up, and then of course everybody came running. So
that's true. That's true everywhere. Revenue is viewership on my channel is way down. All that. We didn't stream Monday or Wednesday, so like normally we do. I can barely get on YouTube. The last 4 shows that I've done, I've had a hell of a time. Even it shows that my stream is connected, but they won't let me go live.
Weird.
It's not just you. That's a universal thing, because basically YouTube has changed their algorithm because they evidently decided the kind of content that we provides in our little circuit isn't what they feel like promoting. So you really have to like game the algorithm to bypass it. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's kind of how it is.
No,
so your viewers, they're there. They're just not notified that you're live.
No, it's very weird. Like I can't even go on if I set up my own stream and I want to go get the link to the stream just off my page. It doesn't show up. I have to like look for my own stream just so I can cut and paste the link.
Yeah, that's happened to a lot of people. Yeah,
it's very strange. I mean, I'm like, come on, you're happy to take my super chats, but okay.
Captain Robert. So are we figuring out that Trank can't get work and he's having a tantrum? No, actually, funny you mentioned that because that's what we were kind of just talking about was this here. Honestly, I think this is more of a puff piece. It's kind of like Robert was kind of saying. I mean, he is kind of taking the blame is what I think it is. Yeah. We were talking about this with Script Doctor on what was it? Bounding Comic. Yeah, where I said this they all agreed too that this does sound like he's kind of he got a new agent, got a new publicist. They're trying to build him back up because here's the difference between him and somebody like, a Hollywood Harvey who we talked about before. Most of the stuff that Josh has done basically were just damage to his own career and his own self. He didn't really hurt anybody else, or anything like that. He wasn't accused of assaulting anybody or anything like that, So chances are they could possibly build him back up into this, little indie television director. But, him saying, I'm not going to be doing big movies anymore. That's more like his agents telling him, don't expect to get any big movies anymore, I bet. But at the same time, like you were kind of saying, Robert, he might have just decided that just wasn't for him.
Yeah. Nobody has to go to jail for what Josh Trank did.
Other than him for the for the hotel.
Well, he's got the new Tom Hardy movie coming out.
Yeah.
That's why this is coming out now.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
The marketing machine. That movie is coming out on the 12th of May. That's in less than 1 week. Actually, it's in exactly 5 days. That's the reason why all of this is coming out. It's like his redemption story and his redemption arc is how they're like trying to sell this, which is kind of like true. And this is the kind of movie that he probably should have been making all along, and not something like Fantastic Four, which from my point of view was always going to be a disaster. There was no universe, there was no possibility of that movie ever being anything other than a complete and total disaster. To me, the signs were absolutely obvious from the moment that he was announced for it. So that's something that I will give him credit for. It's not just him. It's not just his fault, because you're entirely right, Robert, in that when you're in that position, don't fuck up. Absolutely. However, he should never have been put in that position. The moment that he shared his take with what he wanted to do with the Fantastic Four, that's when Tom Rothman said that, I think maybe Fantastic Four isn't right for you. Let's see if we can find something else original that's more suited for your vision. Instead, they said, yes, love it. When he gave his take, which was completely, utterly incompatible with the Fantastic Four. And that's actually one of the reasons that made me start Midnight's Edge. I kid you not, this is one of the reasons, was I was so frustrated with that movie, and then seeing all the pundits at the time saying, this is so exciting, this director, this take. I was like,
it's almost like Last Jedi Ground Zero almost. It was almost like before, you know what I mean?
No. Much worse, because
I know, but it's like the auteur director, taking on a franchise, and obviously,
kind of. But here's the difference, because basically here is someone announcing that I'm going to make every single thing that is guaranteed to fail and backfire is what I'm going to do, and then they agreed to that. And he did exactly that. He did exactly what he set out to do in the first take of the movie, because he delivered a cut first. It didn't have an ending or anything, but he delivered a first cut, and they hated it. This is what he said right here, and this is what we reported at the time. That's on Fox, because he gave them exactly what he said he was going to give them. And then that's when they saw that, oh shit, what he said that he was going to give us, what we agreed that he was going to give us, isn't the kind of movie that we imagined. That's on them.
Yeah, I remember saying that too. Yeah, from
Well,
watching.
that's what
the
happens
video.
when a really hot director, after one film, kind of believes their own praise. They think they can do no wrong, especially a young guy like Trank in this case. I mean, Chronicle was a really popular film, a good success for what went into it, and that went to his head a little, I think. And I think it'd be very difficult for a lot of people who worked on a film that would be so successful not to get to that mindset, given the nature of Hollywood at the time. When you're a hot director, the floodgates kind of open a little bit. Everybody wants you to make their film so that they can, build up a bigger career on top of that as well. And sadly, Josh Trank just didn't have the discipline of himself to take on such responsibility so quickly. So
it's a clear example of too much
exploited
too
by the
fast.
system. Yeah,
It's a clear example of too much too fast. Because I mean, who's to say if he didn't have a few, mid-level movies under his belt by the time he did Fantastic Four, things might have been different. I don't know. But
he probably would have seen like his own experimentation may not have been best to be utilized in something that's a tentpole level thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that usually what takes a while for directors and even writers and actors to understand.
Right. Also, too, we live in a different world. Like when I was growing up, I just think of the directors I would follow, like whether it's Cronenberg or John Carpenter. I mean, if you look at John Carpenter, he made Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, and Escape from New York before he made The Thing for Universal. So he had 4 films under his belt before.
Yeah, John Carpenter's a great example. Yeah,
he also Dark Star, right? Too.
Yeah, but Dark Star was a student film that was later expanded into a feature.
Yes.
So, but yes, Dark Star. So you want to count that? It's 5. I love Dark Star, by the way. But a lot of the time, these directors would. The world was a much different place too. That these movies, obviously, Avco Embassy had released. I mean, Compass put out Halloween, but Avco Embassy did The Fog, and I think they did Escape from New York as well. And they were, back then they were a mini major. They were small distributors. So you're building a career. And what was interesting is that Carpenter brought his own unique sensibility to The Thing. Unfortunately, it had the it was released 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, it was released the same day as Blade Runner, and a week after E.T. or something. And
E.T. sucked all the air out of everything.
It was too bad. But he did work his way up to studio filmmaking. And a guy like Josh Trank, I love Chronicle, but to go then do a superhero movie for a studio when you brought your own unique take to superhero movies, I think if Josh Trank had used what he did with Chronicle and go off to make another passion project. I mean, I've seen so many directors, people I really like Richard Kelly, who directed Donnie Darko. He went off and he made Southland Tales as his next movie, and that didn't work out so well for him. But he did make a movie like Button or The Button for Warner Brothers, and that didn't do much. But you really have to manage your career carefully. I know. I mean, I made a movie and no one saw it, and it made no money, and I was only ever offered 2 different studio directing jobs, and one of them it was between me and another guy, and they changed the movie underneath me. So I'd made my pitch, but it was what they decided to cut out of it was what I liked about it. So they went with the other guy. So you just never know, you never know. But when you have the opportunity, you have to play ball. You have to working within the studio system successfully is an art form unto itself.
Right. Well, and that's something we always express with why somebody like a Kevin Feige is so important too. Mark C sent us $10. Rob, do you want to read that? Are you dead?
My mic was muted. Mark C, $10. A Headland knew she made a play loosely based on Weinstein. She gladly breaks federal employment law and needs to go away. Go back and watch last week's Toxic Femininity. Geeky Candy was brilliant.
But getting back to the topic at hand a little bit,
Josh Trank,
that's so important what you say about the art of maneuvering studio politics. Now, I've never really done it myself, but I would say that it's less of an art form than it is politics and being a politician, which I guess is kind of an art in and of its own. I mean, that's one of the reasons, for instance, why J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot is so popular. In addition to being hot, they're great politicians. Like they know
what how to sell it. Yeah,
they know how to sell it, and they also understand who their employer is. It's not the audience, it's the studio, it's the producer. So when the producer wants something, they say yes, and they put it in because they know who they're working for, and it's not the audience, it's the producer. Make them happy,
right?
And you make a career for yourself.
And that's what I keep saying when people go, well, how come JJ hasn't been fired? How come Kurtzman hasn't been fired? How come so-and-so hasn't been fired? It's because of what you just said, Andre, and that is specifically they know exactly how to sell these projects to the right people. In their eyes, people like JJ has had nothing but hits for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they weren't well received by the audience necessarily in all times, it doesn't mean they didn't make money on the other end, which is funny though, ironically, is he can sell it, he can sell, an ice cream, a ketchup popsicle to anybody in white gloves when it comes to being a producer. But when it comes to an audience, we won't buy his shit for anything, specifically, like we've been talking lately, Andre, he basically killed the toy industry for Star Trek. Like there's hardly any existence anymore for the Star Trek brand, to the point where it's even infested the original stuff now.
Yeah, that's not just hit on him. That's on Discovery and
Discovery. Yeah, well, it's his. Yeah,
everything.
It's all that
that's
together.
Just the audience fatigue is what I think. That's my hypothesis, without having any study to back that up. That's just my hypothesis. That even the old-timey fans are like, they're kind of like moving on a little bit. They're certainly not investing in toys or anything like that when all the new installments are not to their liking. I greatly enjoyed your review of the finale of Picard, Robert, by the way. That was absolutely hilarious, seeing you reading the emails and everything after that.
Dude, I guess I just don't understand how something as awful as Picard can get made. I guess I do, but who? It's very funny. You read any science fiction, as I digress, but read any science fiction story. If you've decided that you're going to say that there is an AI, a super AI intelligence that is galaxies spanning, all right, the technology that would be involved in something like that, and they're depicted as having like tentacles that look like they were manufactured by utensils in someone's kitchen, snapping through a portal in space. That's your depiction of such an intelligence? That? I'm like, how who is writing this? Like, how does a producer look at something like that and go, oh yeah, that's how we're going to depict our super intelligence that spans galaxies as having snapping tentacles? First of all, why would tentacles that look like they're from, I don't know, 1986 or something? I mean, come on. And that's how you choose to display this for the audience, that there's literally like somebody opens a portal and these tentacles are waiting on the other side, like it's fucking, like I said, Cthulhu from an H.P. Lovecraft
or the Matrix,
story.
They also gambled on no one having seen the Avengers.
No, but that's exactly what it is. A producer will say, oh, I recognize that because I've seen it in the Matrix. Therefore, it's cool because the Matrix is cool, the Matrix sold. That's the mindset of a lot of producers out there, is if they can recognize it from another existing thing, they're okay with it, because they don't see it as an insult to originality. They just see it as, oh yeah, this fits the numbers. I mean, even a galaxy spanning and AI, that's something that's out of Isaac Asimov's iRobot. Like towards the end, I think the final short story, if memory serves, like there's a galaxy span, there's AI that expands throughout the entire universe as it's slowly going out, and then it ends with, and the AI says, "Let there be light." It kind of reboots the whole thing. And it's like, okay, so Star Trek Picard is going to use something similar to that. They're going to say, yes, there's an AI, but instead of it being still a tool of humanity or life, as it is in iRobot, it's now the bringer of doom, and it's going to be the most pedestrian, scary thing we're ever going to make out of such an interesting idea.
Well, and if you look at Star Trek in the past, I mean, let's go back to Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Look at the idea of V'ger, and look at how awe-inspiring and how giant and how, you know, I'm a big fan of that movie. But the wonder of the cosmos is wonderfully visualized with the idea of V'ger. And they don't even, it's like these are just stupid sci-fi concepts they toss off the top of their heads without any real understanding of what it is they're trying to depict. I mean, the movie Her, with Scarlett Johansson as the voice of the operating system, is way more sophisticated and has a much better grasp of artificial intelligence than Star Trek Picard does. And that's shameful.
Yeah.
And I love Her.
Welcome, author Stephen Walton of the Fandom Menace, Volume 1 through whichever you end up with.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for the invite, Tom. How you doing, everybody? Nice to meet you, Robert.
Oh, nice to meet you, sir.
This is the chronicler of the Fandom Menace himself.
Yes, sir. Shipping out books tomorrow to all my backers. Thank you very much for all your support. And, thank you.
Congratulations for writing a book. That's amazing.
I appreciate that, Robert. I've written a few books before science fiction, the Elemental Saga, but this is my first nonfiction attempt. So I'm happy with the product, and I hope the readers are happy with it as well.
Can't wait to see my copy. Robert Levito sent us $20. Thank you so much. You didn't say anything, but we appreciate the donation. Garbo the VS sends us $5. Rob, what's he say there?
What's crazy is the whole Josh Trank Fan4stic is how I discovered you guys for 4 years ago. You guys were making Sony Spider-Man video essays, meaning Midnight's Edge.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm the only one of Midnight's Edge that's here from that day. Rob, you came in towards the tail end of it.
Say the first one I remember hearing his voice was a Ghostbusters video, I think.
Yeah, but that was that. I think that was like the third. That was the third mini documentary you narrated. The first one was the final Trank Gate one.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Which was Midnight's Edge first claim to fame, for lack of a better term. That was what enabled us to cross that first 1,000 subscriber milestone. Since we were basically, in my opinion, or as far as I know, the only one talking about everything that went down there. So that gave us some following. So now that Josh Trank is back with a new movie, I'm very excited to cover that. Without wishing him any ill will. It was never anything personal against him, although he had some statements that made it difficult to be neutral sometimes, let's say. But
yeah. Larry with a $1.49 super sticker with a very near and dear to my heart avatar there, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Hey, they got Rocky and Bullwinkle ones now? Cool.
Oh yeah. Hello there today, friends. So Mackenzie Lambert. Mackenzie Lambert or Lambert, $2. Free the mouse slaves.
Speaking of mouse slaves, that was one of the reasons I was asking originally, Robert, you about the whole announcements. I was thinking that was maybe to help with this, because they had their earnings meeting or whatever it was, and it's not looking good for Disney. Pandemic aside, I mean, you would think they'd be one of the companies that would be having no issues whatsoever, and yeah, they're not in the best of shape right now, it looks like.
Well, with all the acquisitions that they've made in the last few years, this is definitely a bad time for something like this to happen.
And Eldritch Thrust Lord sent us a $1.49 super sticker, Rob. Yes, I can't see it, so.
Oh, it's a pandemic doctor.
They got those up, but we can't talk about it. Nice. Dolphide send us $5.
$5.
Thanks for having me dream. Thanks for having me dream of James Gunn written, directed Star Wars film. Yeah, we were talking about that last night. I was saying that was a no-brainer to have him direct a Star Wars movie.
But getting back to Disney for the moment, because to me it's absolutely no surprise at all that Disney is struggling in this situation. But Robert, I want to hear your take on that, on Disney and their situation right now.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is I think more than any other, I mean, they've got cruise ships. They've got obviously their parks. I've heard they're going to open. Are they opening Shanghai Disneyland soon? I've heard they're doing that.
They want to, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll happen, but I mean, so much of their business, they make so much money from their parks, and they were just cut off.
Right.
And I think the thing that here's the thing. I find myself fairly optimistic about all of this stuff because it's not like the parks were run into the ground. They were running. Disney was doing very well. Their movies were doing well. They were doing well, and this thing just literally curtailed, like everything else. Everything just stopped. And as we slowly come back, I think Disney will eventually get back to where it was if they can weather the storm. Because I mean, nobody saw something like this coming as much as it has, and I think that Disney will be fine. It might, it's going to be rough, but they will come back. It's not like the parks are going anywhere. The parks are still there, and eventually they're going to be able to be opened. And I think that it just depends on how and when and how they're going to do that.
Yeah, that's the challenge for Disney, though, is that, as you say, the parks, they're the cornerstone of their entire operation.
Yep.
And they're a money printing machine. That's exactly what they are. That's
right.
the key to their success. And you have the cruise ships, and then of course you have the movies. And what do all of these things have in common? They assume that loads of people, loads of audiences or paying customers are together, not social distancing. That is the assumption behind it all. Almost the one and only bit of Disney's entire enterprise and operations that doesn't rely on that is Disney Plus, which was Bob Iger baby, which again just goes to show how foreseeing he really was and how fortuitous they were in their timing of having had that ready last fall. Imagine it wasn't ready yet. If they didn't have Disney Plus, which now has like 60 million subscribers or something ridiculous, and they still haven't opened in much of Europe, they're going to roll out there over the course of the next 6 months, and they're going to cross 100 million easy when they do that.
Yeah.
That right now is actually like the lifeline, because they've had to take up debt. They've had to
they're borrowing billions of dollars.
Yeah, those money they have to be repaid, and they're in a precarious situation because of this entire Fox acquisition. And like this thing right here, this is something that could end a company like Disney had it not been for Disney Plus. In my opinion, Disney Plus right now is very much keeping Disney alive, because that's like the only thing that pushes fresh money into the system. And of course, then all they have to do is stay alive, and they can get loads and loads of debt on the promise that, we still have the parks, as you say. But how long before the parks will generate like they did before?
Yeah,
let's say that the economy reopens this fall or something like that. But how long before people will go to public places, to a movie theater, to Disneyland, to Disney World, the way that they did before? That could be years before they fully recover their revenue.
Right. Well, speaking of revenue, Matt G gave us a super sticker, and so did Stephanie Littlepage, and then we got a super chat as well. So thank you for those. Garble the VS says, never thought I'd see the day that the mighty Disney, enjoying massive success last year, with the exception of Rise of Skywalker, would be hit this hard. This is going to be a long recovery for them. That's what I was kind of saying. Yeah. And going back to what these guys were saying is that unlike most movie studios where they're living constantly, from loan to loan, from movie to movie, Disney has the major theme parks, which is a constant source of revenue, and that being shut down is what's really hurting them right now. Sorry, what were you going to say, Rob?
There was no disaster plan, though. I know most Japanese companies, let's say like Toyota, or something. They have a disaster plan in place. There's
Of course they have disaster plans. Of course they have disaster plans for a terrorist attack in their park. They have a disaster plans for a kid drowning in Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. They don't have a disaster plan for the entire economy shut down for months on end. I assure you, no one has a disaster plan for that. That goes into the category of disaster plan for a comet strike coming and taking out the world economy. Like, no one has planned for that.
Well, even though pandemics are a perceivable threat and have been in the past, you're right. I don't think they've had a disaster plan for something of this scale.
No.
You also have to think about all of the people that work at these parks, the actors, the mechanics, the people that work in the shops. As things start if they start reopening gradually, I'm sure, how will this affect the working class within these parks? And how will they be able to all come back to work, or is Disney going to have major layoffs during the first initial months of reopening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really good point. And also, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all shakes out in terms of our population and the numbers of people infected. I mean, obviously, as has been shown, the numbers of people that have been deeply affected and have lost their lives from this pandemic, the majority of people recover. I mean, people need to understand that they do recover, and the numbers skew older and people with underlying conditions, and that a lot of people are not going to, they're going to be able to lead long and healthy lives after this, the majority of the population. But we just don't know. We're at the very beginning of this new emergent strain of a disease. We don't know what it's going to look like in another year or two, and we don't know how infectious people are. And like in California here, they clamped down on this pretty quickly. I mean, the stay-at-home order came March 19th, I think, and I've been sequestered at home for almost 2 months, and
Likewise.
and we were pretty lucky that our local government was the mayor of Los Angeles, and also I think it was the mayor actually who said it first, but then it was, of course, the state government. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Like, are people going to want to go? Like, I would not want to. My mom's 81 years old now. Her father lived to be 97 and had a great life up until the week that he passed away. I wouldn't want my mom, if she's got another 16 years of vibrant life on this planet, I wouldn't want to get my mom sick, and I wouldn't even know, like a lot of younger people, we could be asymptomatic carriers and we could be spreading the disease around. I mean, I think they just don't know. There's so much they don't know yet that's going to reveal itself in the next year. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I think what all of this economic doom and gloom, it's just the jobs are still there. People are still going to need the basic, like, everything they need. It's not like the economy is a smoldering ruin where the factories are now empty, craters where somebody bombed them or something. It's not like that.
No, I have a feeling it's going to feel like when you try to start a car on a cold morning and you get the, it takes a little bit to get it going. I feel like that's what it's going to take. A few weeks, we'll get going, because they already tested a few places like Georgia. I think it was this last weekend. They opened up theaters and they had record attendance. And that's why, the other reason why we're putting together this editorial to follow up on the AMC story is because, like people were putting out in the chat, going to Disney World isn't exactly something a family can afford, but going to the movies is, and that's one of the reasons why theaters are probably not going to die through this pandemic, because when it's all said and done, it's one of the few things that a family of 5 on a very limited budget can go do on a Friday or Saturday and not have to take out a small loan from the bank.
Speaking about limited budgets, I mean, right now, a lot of people's savings are being drained during this time.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have the money to go out. My work finally got back to me about going back. And the first job they offered me was states away. And I had to negotiate with them because my savings have been getting drained keeping my house afloat. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in that situation, having to delegate work and money flow, cash flow at this time. So really the question comes, who is going to have the money to go back to the parks once they reopen after having to spend months of keeping their homes afloat, their mortgages, their car payments, and what have you?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's another thing to that. And here's the thing with the reopening economy. Robert, you are entirely right that the economy is not a smoldering ruin, and America is uniquely positioned to make a fast recovery. Much better position.
Yeah, I think we will.
Anyone else? Yeah, you are.
As long as things go on an upward trajectory, we're fine. Yeah.
I'm not going to get into politics here, but I will say that I'm speaking now purely as a professional within finance. Over the last 4 years, there have been taken measures in the American economy for which you should be grateful, that will ensure that you will have a much, much speedier recovery than anyone else on the face of the earth. Now, that being said, it's not going to be that speedy because many businesses have gone under because of this. Mm-hmm. And even if suddenly the demand for them will be there, those businesses will have gone out of business. The people that have lost their jobs will already have lost their jobs. That company isn't coming back overnight. Neither are those jobs. Something else has to be started moving into that vacant spot. That's something that's going to take time.
Right. Well, that actually
investment, and all of those ripple effects, those are the thing that's going to basically contribute to things taking longer time. And also people will probably be more risk averse with spending, not spend so easily, because as you say, you have to look after your own household. You have to be able to pay your own bills, and all of this has ripple effects, disrupts the food chain and everything.
Well, yeah,
so unseen effects there.
And that was going to take me to another point actually I was going to make, is beyond the, however you want to put it, domestic side of things or whatever, in the corporate business world. You know, we even dropped a video recently or this morning or whatever about, you know, the possibility of Netflix buying up, possibly, if not CBS and Paramount, at least Paramount probably. And that's the other thing is, yeah, some of these things could be sold off. Some of these companies could, you know, try to raise some money by selling a few things, but you got to remember there's only so much money to go around. And if these companies aren't making any money, they're not going to have the money to buy things. So the only companies that can really afford it are the big companies like Apple and maybe Netflix and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Amazon. Disney should be one of those companies, but I of course, according to like what we've been talking about all this time and what a lot of people are saying in the chat, the Fox acquisition, I think, is what really put them under. If they had not done that, I think they'd be fine. What do you guys think, Robert?
Well, you know, it maybe, but the thing is, I think that they've been very shrewd in what it is that they're like. All of this is about acquiring Fox is all about getting that library, you know,
which they haven't used. Yeah,
but they need it for the future. I mean, it's all streaming is all going to be about all the streaming services will live and die by their content. And the one thing that you have to have a deep catalog, all those famous Fox movies, but then you also have to be making new things. I mean, Disney Plus, a lot of these streaming services, I mean, it seems like Netflix hasn't really been affected yet. They've got new stuff dropping all the time. But, you know, Disney acquired, it was shrewd because Disney has no adult fare. You know, you get sucked in, you get Disney Plus. The thing about Disney Plus is it will last forever because every kid will be watching Disney Plus. A parent will subscribe as soon as they have children. They will subscribe to Disney Plus when their children start watching stuff because it's the ultimate repository of children's entertainment.
And grown kids that want to enjoy the entertainment with their children from their childhood.
Yeah, of course. And it's so it will never go out of style. It'll work forever. But the problem is that limits them. So Disney went and did the smart thing. They acquired, so the people that love Disney will grow up and then graduate to watch the adult fare, the Predator movies, the Alien movies, French Connection, you know, whatever's part of Patton, whatever's part of the Fox catalog. So they've got everyone covered. you know, and the other streaming services appeal to everybody. Disney Plus it is limited, so that's why they bought Fox, and it was a shrewd maneuver. They were going to have to do it at one point. They would have bought Sony, or they would have bought Paramount.
Oh
at
yeah,
some point.
oh yeah.
I mean,
I think the timing of it is what I was asking.
Yeah, I mean, but nobody could have foreseen that this global pandemic will happen. But the thing about
Simpsons
Disney
did no.
right. What I think has been disappointing through this whole thing is, I think the federal government's response. This kind of, you know, people game stuff out. The military games things out all the time, and it's not just about when a global pandemic occurs. It's disappointing that our military games stuff out all the time. We have the best military in the world. We spend the most amount of money in the world on our military. We should do the same thing. We should have had people. There should have been groups in place in our government. And I'm not blaming Trump or anything like this. I'm just saying that our government. This is something that we were woefully ill prepared for.
Yes.
And it's something that we shouldn't have been ill prepared for. Like, we should have had an economic plan in place.
Absolutely. Yes.
It would have gone across our banking system. It would have gone across all kinds of systems that would have put a lock or a stop. Like when the stock market gets too ridiculous, they'll stop trading for the day. This is something, and by the way, we're going to have one after this. They'll figure that out and put these kinds of things in place, but we should have known better. And that's what I was disappointed in, is that I would like to have seen more leadership at the federal level on paying more attention to the economy. And I think that's been problematic.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point.
The rest of Europe, let's say, I have to say, like, as someone that's not in the US, you were really quick on the ball compared to many other countries in Europe. I've seen like some people go and compare to the response in Europe. I don't know what they're on about, honestly. You had like in Europe, we were slow. It took a long, like the response was good when it came. But America had already taken measures really early. The problem with America was that or in my view then, was that it did a great move really, really quickly that bought time and loads of it, and then it did nothing for the next 3 weeks. And then you're caught up in the meantime.
Well, we have a real, America has a real problem. And our problem is with China. And it's not that China has wet markets. I'm talking about our economy is so intertwined with China's that we don't want to piss them off too much, you know, and as Trump himself has personal business dealings with China. And so on one hand, we have so much of our American economy that is reliant upon China. Look at everyone's talking about now that we get all of our PPEs from China.
You are much less dependent on the Chinese economy, on China, than Europe is.
Oh, I know.
This is what I mean. Measures have been taken over the last 4 years to make the American economy much more self-reliant. That is something that's going to help America recover. Yeah. Meanwhile, the situation is much worse in Europe, because over the past 4 years, where America has basically taken measures which is protecting the American economy right now, Europe basically just continued outsourcing, and we're completely dependent on China and India. And now, of course, measures will be taken to roll that back. But these are measures that America started 4 years ago.
Well, not only that, I mean, the Chinese are very shrewd. They're playing the long game. There's infrastructure projects that the Chinese had in Italy. The reason you had outbreaks there is because there's a lot of Chinese nationals going to and from Europe and to and from Africa. The Chinese have come into many African nations, and they're like, look, we're going to help you now. We're going to build your infrastructure. All we want from you guys is your mineral rights. You know, so a lot of these countries have signed over their natural resources in exchange for getting modernization and roads and everything that the Chinese will bring. We have completely abandoned that. We have not allowed the Chinese to. I mean, we have completely allowed the Chinese to do that. We've taken no measures to stake our own claim there. And so you've got there's a lot of Chinese infrastructure, and there's Chinese nationals all over the world. And that's why they're talking about, like, how in New York, this virus did not come from China directly to us. It came through Europe. And that's the whole Eastern Seaboard. And when you're bringing in travel restrictions against China, that doesn't help you when you're not having travel restrictions against Europe as well. Yeah. The only way you can stop a pandemic is to stop all travel at once. But that doesn't work economically. You know, you don't want to do that. But now look where we're at.
Exactly, and that's what makes everything so difficult. And the situation we are in right now is something we've never ever been in before. That's the thing. But also, yeah, this is the Chinese strategy. That's the secret behind their success, which is basically invest all over the rest of the world, not just mineral rights, not just 5G infrastructure, not just property, but also loans.
Oh yeah,
make everyone owe you money by way of loans, like Trump himself, and he isn't the only one. In fact, he's much less invested with Chinese businesses than pretty much any other businessman of similar stature. They're gonna well, just look at Hollywood, just look at
I was just gonna say, look at how invested they are in Hollywood.
Look at Mulan. What a pickle is that going to be for Disney?
I can't even imagine.
Also,
sorry, but like to your point, Andre, about the loans and the aspects of the United States being able to recover faster than other countries, that's all depending on whether or not new regulations are passed on banks with regards to financing small businesses that have to reopen or be rebuilt. If they don't make sure that they don't repeat something of the toxic lending that happened with the housing bubble years ago, because that's likely to happen if certain practices are repeated over and over again. You end up having a fast recovery, but then you have basically another quick recession that could have been avoided had they not had banks been more responsible with how they do their lending practices after this.
That's going to depend very much on what happens in November.
Well, not just the banks, but if they give them any kind of bailouts, we all should really pay attention to what they do as not only consumers, but employees of a lot of these places. Because if they end up firing a bunch of us and turn around and get a bunch of bailouts and then just buy back a bunch of stock of their own and then rehire new people at lower costs, that's really going to be, it's going to be even more, it's going to be like was with the whole lending thing, even worse.
You're going to have 4 extra working classes in their own tiers.
I was just going to say, it's going to create a whole nother lower class than we already had. And that's what these businesses and corporations like to do all the freaking time because it makes their bottom line look bigger.
You also have to worry about the inflation of the American dollar after all this money was printed, to give emergency funds to its citizens. That's going to hit some point in the next year.
And that's what I was talking about. Disney is that's a possibility of what they could be up to at the end too, is like, we were talking about all the jobs and stuff there. I mean, I know they're one of the few places that has claimed that they're paying their employees at the moment, but I'm sure there's cutoffs and things, like if you've only been an employee for 6 months or something to that effect, you're probably not getting paid or probably not going to have a job when everything reopens. So it's going to be really dicey when these things kind of happen. And when we finally do get things rolling again, I just hope that the corporations make the right moves this time and don't do the normal greedy bullshit thing they do.
Yeah, it's been the best interest for a company, be it a large business or a small business, to take advantage of what happens when things reopen and start expanding and training. Because the more people they can get to work, the more they can actually delegate and get things done on the recovery side of things, the more they're able to pay people so that they start spending money within their local economies in order to sort of build up an economical foundation to allow for expansion, growth, and all that building. The one thing that I noticed a lot happening before this thing hit, because businesses were actually suffering a lot with stuff happening last year. A lot of them were tightening their belts. They were laying off people, which was my girlfriend's in loss prevention. She's like, as soon as the company starts laying off, they're kind of going to be doomed, because they, especially in a slow period, if you take out a loan and start investing in staff to learn the job as competently as they can within a slow period where there's time to actually make sure they do it right, once business picks up, they're now ahead of the game. They're able to do better services. They're able to be more efficient. They're able to be more reliable. And you end up not having to spend as much money hiring staff like in a seasonal position and then rushing to train them, where they will then make mistakes in a shorter window, as opposed to having months to learn the habits and the policies of wherever job they're at. And that's going to be an issue now. As soon as things start reopening, some businesses start doing some hiring, that's what's going to happen. Their people are going to be starting to flood into the stores, or more contracts are going to be bid on for whatever businesses have them, and they're just not going to have the staff that's just properly trained to get the job done properly. So then we're going to see a repercussion from that. And yeah, part of me suspects that the recovery process is going to be very familiar to the travel process after 9/11. It's going to be slow. It's going to be long. There's going to be a lot of measures to put in place before people get comfortable again. And I foresee it lasting at least 5 years. It's going to feel more normal sooner, but I think it's going to have at least a good 5 years of weirdness after that.
Well, the world is definitely going to change after something like this. I think measures are going to be put into place, which is also going to raise costs for companies. So, we have to, I believe, yes, the script doctor is right. It is going to be a gradual restart. It's just, I'm more worried about the people who have struggled during this time, how their cash flow has been really just cut completely. And, just your regular everyday working people, how are they going to survive past this? Are companies going to care enough to take care of their employees or train their employees properly after this? Or are we going to go back to the same old greed system that we saw after the Wall Street crash?
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see, what's going to happen. But I think, ultimately, I choose to believe I'm more optimistic about all this. I mean, this thing has happened. It's already happened. It's over and done with.
Right.
I mean, it's still going on. But what we have to do now is get back to the business of reopening the economy. We're going to be doing that. We're going to see how it goes. I mean, obviously, it really does bother me that we seem to now have become so casual up. So 3,000 people a day die in the United States. We can live with that. No, we shouldn't. We should never have to live with something like that.
Right.
We should never, and we should never forget that this kind of thing could have been preventable. We need to. The fact that we have all kinds of trillions of dollars of military spending to keep preparedness for a conflict that may never come is one thing, but the fact that we don't have the same kind of preparedness, why aren't we climate change, epidemics, all of these things are just as much a part of preparedness. Let's talk about education and
Healthcare.
Yes. Healthcare and education are they're the cornerstones of national security. And all of these things, we have to redress our entire thinking about what makes us vulnerable, because it didn't take a military to bring the country to its knees. It took a disease to do it. And so if that's the case, then why aren't we spending as much money, at least as much money, on epidemiology and preparedness for this kind of thing as we are with buying tanks and planes and guns and things like that? I mean, it has really laid bare a problem. And at the end of the day, we don't need people. I mean, our healthcare system and our education system might keep people from playing militia and going to their local state houses and taking up guns and not wearing military equipment the way it's supposed to be worn, and cause problems for people that are overwhelmed trying to deal with what's happening. We need all of that. I mean, and I'm not saying that look, there's a lot of people that make good points about our personal liberties being taken away. Well, yeah, but you know what? Real smart people and real healthy people are very aware of this. And we have to be ever vigilant. And these are not something that we should be reacting to when they've already happened. We should have these things in place. We should have economics. We should have healthcare, all of this. And we're not good at that. We're only reactors. We're not people that are being proactive. And we've got to stop being like that.
Well, there's no money in being proactive. That's the sad part.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
There should be, but yeah.
Look at how much it
not
costs.
necessarily there should be, but we should be, yeah.
Also the thing, though, that one prepares for the future by looking at the past, and that's kind of like human nature. Like, for instance, one of the reasons why Germany could steamroll over all of Europe in World War II was because the rest of Europe was prepared for the next war by looking at the previous one. Everyone was expecting a trench war like you had in World War One. Instead, you got blitzkrieg, which was a new invention from the Germans, which is exactly why they could steamroll literally.
Or guerrilla warfare in Vietnam, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
guerrilla
by the way,
warfare has been around for thousands and thousands of years.
Well, right, but
yeah.
the fact that the Americans weren't ready for that kind of a thing, but
you didn't get it, so that was fine. You're separated.
Eldrick Thrust Lord sent $2.
Yeah.
Disney is up shit creek without a paddle. You got that right. I'm sure they'll come out of this okay on the other end. It's more so they need to get things up and running again.
But you can also say, like, why aren't we prepared for comet strikes? Because that's something that's going to happen.
Well, the one thing I'm more worried about is a giant volcanic eruption. I mean, we all remember the Iceland issue a few years back where it kind of took out travel, but that was kind of a mild case. If you have like a super volcano that actually goes, we can't stop that. We could stop a meteor. We have rockets we could fashion together and deflect. It'll take a while on our end, but we'll most likely see the thing coming before an issue happes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. I mean, only this.
It's still more reactionary, yeah.
Only this week we discovered like a thing the size of a bus that almost hit the planet that one hadn't seen before. Like, oh shit, there it was. Good thing that missed. There's a lot of.
As long as we got Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis alive, we're okay.
Well, the moon also helps us with that too. The moon takes a lot of impact of, and also Jupiter and several other planets.
Yeah.
I think we're all right as long as we got those.
But it goes to that there are many things that one can prepare for. So many disasters that can happen.
Yeah. Script Doctor brought up the Icelandic volcano eruption. I was supposed to go to the week that it erupted. It erupted on Sunday. No, they had shut air travel down that weekend, and I was supposed to fly to London on that Friday. So I'm like glued to the news. I'm like, am I going to be out all this money? I'm like, oh my God. But fortunately, by the middle of the week, they lifted the air travel ban. I was still able to go. So that I was sweating that one out.
Yeah. And I don't know why Steven's laughing. Why is it so hard to believe that it's easier to train drillers to be astronauts than astronauts to be drillers? I don't understand the logic behind your laughter. Anyway, Sketch Therapy sent us $9.99, says, love this subject, love this panel. Thanks for the crossover. Good to see you, Mr. Burnett. And it's always a treat when we get to have Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett here on Midnight's Edge. And we also got Captain Harry with $5 saying, Robert Meyer Burnett on. Andre, are you trying to get on my good side by torturing two Robs with STD rewatch parties? Thankfully, no, we're not watching Star Trek Discovery quite yet.
Oh, speak for yourself. But
yeah.
but when we do, Robert Meyer Burnett has a standing invitation, of course, to.
Oh wait, we got season 3 coming.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh.
And did you hear about that, Robert? I don't know if I've gotten a chance to talk to you since we heard about that, about the last episode shooting for 33 days. Did you hear about that?
Oh,
yeah, at the end of February.
Wow, 33 days for an hour-long television show.
And that was probably a reshoot too, because remember they were finished filming back in what, December,
yeah.
Yeah, and then they went back for quote unquote reshoots in February, and I'm assuming that whole whatever 33 days was that. That's almost a movie shoot, folks. If you're listening out there and you don't understand why that's such a big deal. Normally, you should be able to shoot a show like this in what, a week, if that.
Yeah, 8 to 10 days, maybe. Also, unless it's, maybe they're on location. Who knows?
They did do. They were shooting in what was it, Iceland?
Iceland, yeah.
But where were they this last time? Were they in Iceland again, or was it?
No, they were at Pinewood, Toronto.
I was gonna say they were in Canada. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I went back before this thing hit, and I just asked some questions around. They wouldn't give me any solid answers, but they were tearing down some sets. And they weren't telling me if they're being destroyed or moved or what have you. And the only thing is I know for sure is that Secret Hideout rented out almost all of the set pieces, the set rooms at Pinewood, Toronto for Discovery. And the one thing I do know that they don't have 100% on is the artificial shore that they created. That's like rented out whenever people need it. So yeah, like they were just saying, yeah, we're tearing stuff down, and I saw one truck moving stuff out, and they just wouldn't tell me what it was for, but I had to put 2 and 2 together because there are other shows that do use Pinewood Toronto also, but not as much of the facility as Secret Hideout has. So they were taking that down. If they were reshooting for another 33 days, they could have been building new sets to do whatever they're doing for that, and just kind of hammering out a series finale speculatively.
Well,
If not,
as long as they do Doug Jones some justice, I'm a big fan of his, and Saru's the only character on that show I really get any enjoyment.
well, they kind of screwed him over already. But the only other I know another thing was they were supposed to start shooting the Clarice show in June. I think it was, wasn't it? I don't know if you heard anything,
this summer.
Robert or Script Doctor.
Yeah.
God, what a terrible script.
Man, it's so bad.
Did I send it to you, Robert? Or did you get it?
Yeah, I think you might have.
I think I did. Yeah, it is. It's.
I wasn't going to say one way or another. You know, I got.
No, it's fine. I'm not saying where I got it from, but that person probably doesn't care either. So, anyway, yeah. If you are a fan of Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, any of that kind of stuff. Now, I didn't get to watch your full version of your interview with Brian Fuller, but I got to watch the version you showed on the live show. I don't think you guys got to talk much about Hannibal. Did you guys talk any more about that after that in the interview, Robert?
We talked about Hannibal quite a bit, but
Parker stuff was great.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. That was, we talked. We didn't talk like. I didn't get into one of the things when I'm doing interviews with people like Script Doctor. I just dropped an interview with David Goodman, who's the president of WGA and also an executive producer of the Orville. I just dropped a 2-hour interview with him about his whole career on my channel. But I wanted to talk, like, I don't want to interview people and muckrake, you know, because I want to be able to continue to get these interviews with people. But no, we talked a lot about it. I know from my past dealings, but you know, they were working on a deal to get the rights to Silence of the Lambs. That was going to be a big part of what season 4 or season 5 would have been with Hannibal. And obviously the Clarice show completely destroyed that. But you know, I didn't get into it with him. I didn't really.
Well, I didn't mean like that. I just meant, did he talk about if he had any plans? But that was basically you answered my question.
Yeah, no. He's been trying to get Hannibal. He can't.
Well, we know now it's done. Yeah, we know now it's pretty much.
Yeah, he couldn't get any takers, and it was, you know, he was really frustrated by that. And you know, it's tough. The business is it's very difficult to get anything made these days because I think more so than ever before. There's so many different layers you have to go through now to get things approved, and it's not even enough to have financing anymore. You know, you have to make sure that you not only have something financed, but you already have distribution in place, and that's tough. Mm-hmm. It's really hard.
Yeah, I will say that I'm so bummed that it's not happening because I was a huge fan of his Hannibal show. Like,
me too.
Proud, yeah. That's actually a pet peeve of mine, is that the Blu-rays that we have here in Europe are the censored editions of season 1, because in season 2, season 3, right? They were there's no difference there, but in season 1, it was censored for network TV. And then they released the unedited versions that Brian Fuller wanted to broadcast the whole time on Blu-ray, yes. Whereas in Europe, we were stuck with what was restricted for American network TV instead of getting the uncensored things. That's uncensored things. That's still a pet peeve of mine, that I've never seen the original versions, because the only thing we have here is the basically approved for American broadcasting standards. In Europe, where anything goes. That's what
I suppose the American ones are region locked too.
Yes, of course they are. Otherwise, I would be getting that
I would have figured,
from the States. Still, like, I absolutely love that series. It was so good. Such a great retelling of the stories, and such perfect recasting with so many. Mats Mikkelsen as Hannibal, and also the guy who played Dr. Chilton. Like, so good.
Well, and also that shows how you gender swap characters properly. You know, yes. Freddie Lowndes they did a really interesting take on her. The Freddie Lowndes character in the original books was a guy, the sleazy dude, and I really liked how they gender swap. And Dr. Bloom, Alana Bloom, was a gender swap character too. And what I thought was really interesting, I love those books. You know, I'm definitely a disciple of Thomas Harris's books. I mean, I've read them not Hannibal Rising. I've only read twice, but the other ones I've read a lot over the years.
How's
And
the most recent one?
that's the most recent.
Yeah, Hannibal Rising.
No. He's read another. He's released another book recently. Not the Hannibal Lecter book, but he released another non-Hannibal book. Yeah.
I didn't
Just
know that.
last year, I think. I haven't had time to read it myself. I'm all into Dune right now, so I can't read much other than Dune because I'm like in this project. But yeah, Thomas Harris put out another novel.
Kari Mora.
Wow, that's interesting. Wow, I didn't even know that.
Sounds a lot like some of his other stuff. Yeah, a resilient young woman must outwit a sadistic psychopath in this pulse-pounding thriller from the author of Silence of the Lambs. It's called Kari Mora.
Yeah.
Too bad that wasn't the log line for Clarice.
Real quick, we got an Australian $5 from our good friend Sister Harrow. All my favorites and more, she says, with little heart's eyes there. So, and then we got Sketch Therapy saying extra super chat for the script doctor and the fandom scribe. I don't want them to feel like chopped liver. LOL. I don't love crossover. I do love crossovers. I do love crossovers. Great guess. Yeah, it's always fun when we get to have Andre and Robert hang out with us, which does not get to happen too often. Ian Slater also sends in $2. Is Clarice that bad? SH pisses me off. Yeah, it's not good, dude.
Go watch the Midnight Deads video on it.
We pretty much
gives you a good idea.
It. Oh, here's another one real quick. Let's get through this one. Nelson Sharita sends $5. With all this talk about Disney and the overall economy. Listen to me, I sound like I'm an idiocracy. The economy suffering. Will this put an end to the SJW agenda films? Can studios afford them anymore? Actually, Andre, I think you addressed this the other day, and go ahead.
Andre can address this, but I can also say something that's kind of good news. So I've been doing a lot of Skype and over the phone and Zoom pitching for shows that I want to sell and whatnot. And I've been getting a lot of great compliments from women who are in executive positions about how I write female characters, because they've been saying the only type of female characters we've seen are ones that are a veneer over a masculine character, or something of a Mary Sue, or they're a damsel, or they're this ultimate badass. And they were really happy that, here's this male writer that's writing a woman that's a three-dimensional character that we can grasp on everything. And I was just asking, like, are you getting lots of scripts like that of the things that they don't like? And they said, yes, there's way too many writers out there that are falling in that formula, and we're just automatically rejecting that type of stuff because it's not holding water. And one of the women I was talking to was like, I feel really insulted that there are female writers that are writing women this way, because that's not what I like to see. And I was kind of really relieved, because you don't really hear stuff like that when you're doing pitches, especially to like studios or production houses or executives and managers. They're usually like, yeah, we need female led. That's what sells right now. But now I'm seeing the opposite of that. I'm seeing people like, if you're going to give me a female character, I want to make sure it's a three-dimensional character. I don't want to see a character that's just being badass in the way that a man is badass. There's other ways to do it. Now, they haven't ever referenced existing characters like Sarah Connor or Ellen Ripley or anything of that nature, but they're just saying, like, we really want, if you're going to give us a female-led thing or give us a character, these stories with some females in it, they have to feel like female characters. And it was like the most refreshing thing I've heard. It's been a habit over the last 2 weeks whenever I do pitches, which is really happy, because they're not placating to me. I'm still kind of like a nobody out there, so they don't have to make me happy. So it was really refreshing. So I think the tides are actually starting to really turn now, and I really hope that that mentality kind of expands out again, where they just want more effort and more ingenuity with the characters that are being written and pitched for shows and films, as opposed to what we've been getting over the last few years.
All right, well, that's some good news at least.
Yeah, that's just my individual perspective. So I really hope it's not just me receiving that.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
I would hope that the quality of creativity is going to become paramount, especially when we're coming out of such a troubling time, such a hard time on so many people, where I'm sure they have, like you said, a lot of the characters that they have been generating really don't hold any water. The rewatch value is very low. As myself as a consumer, I just want to see well-written protagonists. That's all I want. And so to hear that kind of a shift in the thinking of people that you're pitching to script, that's a beautiful thing to hear. I hope that that becomes the norm again.
Hear, hear. I mean, I always say on my own channel that you can't put your agenda before your characters or your story.
Mhm.
Yes.
And that doesn't work.
Well, it works, but it only works to a niche audience. And if you're making something and pitching it to a niche audience, then it's perfectly fine. And then there's definitely a place for
Right.
that. But when you're pitching something to a general audience, there's certain expectations that a general audience has. And one of them is good creativity, good story development, character development, and not hearing about a specific agenda or characters being presented in a way that supports a specific agenda. And I mean, really, I have no problem with any kind of artist creating the kind of art that they want to make for their audience. But when it comes to general audiences, I would like appreciation to the creation of these stories and characters over any kind of bias that creator may have.
Well, and that speaks right to the point when to bring up Leslie Headland again. When she sits there in that one interview and she's like, I got to say, I want a black writer for this, etc., blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I think the first question you should be asking, especially if somebody's working on Star Wars, should be, what kind of a Star Wars fan are they? And if you want to tell somebody's story that happens to be black, that's fine. Like you were just saying, Steven, then go make that movie with somebody who already wrote it. Because as Robert and Script and everybody else here can probably attest, there's probably 100 writers out there who happen to be black, who have a story to tell, to go off of something Robert says every day, or have a story to tell already. That if that's the kind of movie you want to make, then go make that movie. You're obviously not the person who should be working on something like Star Wars.
Or even an established franchise that already has those characters built in. Blade was
I was just using it as an example. Yeah.
Blade 1 was a great movie.
Well, not just that, but that shouldn't be the first thing that you're worried about. It should be more so, are they a good writer? Do they have a story to tell that's important to Star Wars?
Can I see the poster with their pitch? That's the question a lot of executives ask. If their pitch is good,
otherwise,
if a poster, then you've got something worth marketing, and the exterior appearance of the writer is completely irrelevant at that point.
But I know I got a very good friend who happens to be a black writer. I'll tell you right now, he's got a bunch of scripts he can sell you right now, Miss Headland, if you want to tell a story from the black point of view. I mean,
Tom, anyway, are you trying to tell us you have a black friend?
I have a few. What's your point? And I know Robert Meyer Burnett.
I don't know how much that helps anybody, actually.
Hey, I'm dropping names, y'all.
Yeah.
Speaking of this black friend, I know him too, and he's going places because some of his pitches and everything are great. So we'll
beautiful.
Look very, very much forward to him taking off.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, there's plenty of people out there who want to tell a story. I mean, if the guy comes in or a gal comes in and they happen to be anything other than white and they seem qualified for the job, great. But that shouldn't be your first, thing in the door. It shouldn't be, I want
right. No, absolutely.
Said writer because of their skin or because of what's between their legs.
Right. No, it should be the ability of the person, being interviewed, or the person that's in the creative position. Race, gender, things like that shouldn't have anything to do with it. It shouldn't be your selling point. It shouldn't be the first thing you look at when you're, looking at the creative talent of an individual. Absolutely. It's just when that becomes the focus, the creativity is sacrificed. And when you have people like Miss Headland, who is, more worried about the sex, gender, or
being an ally,
or being an ally, right? Then you lose something in creativity. The best person for the job is always the best person for the job, and that's just how I feel about it. But I look at things very equally.
I love that when Mecca's like, "You're not my friend." Unrelenting Mail sent us $1.99. What is your guys' take on Vagrant Queen? I'm not sure what that is. Do you guys know what that is, Robert?
Oh, I know what that is.
What is that?
Is
Script?
it's an hour-long sci-fi. Well, it's supposed to be a science fiction show. It's shot in Canada. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel. It is based off of a comic book. It's tone deaf. It doesn't know what type of show it's supposed to be. Is it science fiction? Is it comedy? Is it tongue-in-cheek? It's poorly shot, poor effects, bad makeup. The main character they try to hide the fact that she's a Mary Sue, but she is the best at everything. And it's all over the place. It's also a little bit snarky. They have these these like superimposed they have these like this slug line across the screen that says this is another galaxy, and then it's followed by a snarky remark, not yours. And that's kind of like the attitude of it. It's like it is supposed to be kind of it's supposed to be like the next kind of woke, I guess, space show, but it borrows. It's very derivative. It borrows from so many other franchises that do what they're trying to do far better. They even have like this weird like rabbit monkey live action thing, which I swear I've seen that type of makeup design on other science fiction like B movies before. It's a nonsensical, boring show. I know some of the people that produced it. It's really bad.
So you haven't seen it before, Robert?
No, and the visual effects look like they're animated like a 3D video game. It's very colorful.
They also rip
it's on
off
Stiffy
Funky
enough like Bo and Door, Beat Boar, whatever it is. Sorry, Boyd Boar. I don't know.
Their theme song is a sound alike, but it's more of a rip off of Funky Town from 1980, and the lyrics are just "Hey." Like that's literally the effort of the show. That's pretty much how it is. They rip off something else and just.
Are they unironic, or are they trying to be funny, or what's the deal?
They're trying to be funny, and then they're also funny unironically. And
gotcha.
It's bad.
Nelson Shredder sent us $2. Or did you have anything else to say about that, Robert, or anybody else seen it?
No, there's a couple of people I know that work on it. Now that I'm looking at these credits.
Yeah, I know some of them too. I also know I'm also about for a 45-minute commute to their main production house in Toronto. So I'm thinking about going there and be like, hey, do you need help? Because, I mean, the show has changed a couple of time slots, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be getting renewed for a second season because you don't change a show from like Friday primetime to, I think it's like Sunday after 11 p.m. is where it airs now. So that's not good.
Not a good move. Nelson Shredder sent $2. I want left-handed transgender Haitian writer. Well, good luck finding that. But you're narrowing down the search pretty. I'm sure that's not going to take you long to find one, actually. So yeah, I think we beat this horse well to death. I want to thank Robert Meyer Burnett specifically for showing up. Hopefully we get to do something soon about the whole business with streaming versus physical media and talk a little bit about your special edition. I know we still want to do that yet.
I just feel honored to be with all of you guys. Thanks it's so much fun to do these streams. Andre and Script Reader and all you guys. It's great. Rob.
Yeah, likewise.
Steven, I'm going to read your book about the Phantom Menace now.
Thank you, sir.
We'll try and get you a copy somehow. Captain Hare also sent us. It's no longer for sale for the first run, but I think it will be going up again soon, right?
Run it will be, yeah. When I start the Indiegogo.
I'll let you know when that comes up for sure. Then, otherwise, I'm sure we can make sure you can get a copy somehow, some way. Captain Hare sent $5. Anyway, back to torturing Robs. Any chance of getting Robert Meyer Burnett in on intimately introducing Rob to Ghostbusters 2016? He agreed after all. Well,
I did know.
You put him in it. I thought it was a theoretical thing, but
now we have to have a watch party with Shlomo.
Have you ever seen that, Robert?
Which thing?
The remake of the Ghostbusters 2016 remake.
No.
Oh wow! So Robert hasn't seen it either.
I will say that Robert, you have a standing invitation to any watch party we might have, and we really should be doing one for the Fantastic Four.
Oh, I mean, I've seen the movie. I thought somebody did something new to it. Like
No.
I've seen
Well-
Ghostbusters 2016.
Well, the only thing new,
Oh, you have.
the only thing new they would be doing to it is making me watch it. That's
Well,
it.
not only that, when they released it on video, they did add scenes into it that weren't in theaters.
Actually, you know what? Actually, Robert, I've been watching you and Elizabeth on whining about movies, which I'm very much enjoying it. And I don't know if you saw, but I don't know how long it's been since you've seen it. It's been ages since I've seen it. I don't know if Elizabeth has ever seen it, but there is a movie that that I'd like to see you take on. It's Being There with Peter Sellers.
Oh, you know, it's funny. When the Criterion Blu-ray of that dropped, I showed it to her. I love Being There too. It's such a good movie. But that would be something that's exactly the kind of movie that's right up our alley. I'm trying to show her movies that she hasn't seen.
Okay.
Because it's kind of funny, but I love Being There.
What about I Want to Hold Your Hand? That's another one Rob likes, though, since she's already seen that one.
Yeah, she hasn't seen that, and that recently came out on.
Yeah, because I got that one for her.
Yeah,
yeah, he did. That's a great one. Robert Zemeckis' first films.
Yeah. No, well, thanks for watching the show. I mean, I didn't know. We're just doing it because she can't work, like because she has her own salon, and like she can't work. So I said, well, let's just do a show.
There you go.
And
I've seen a few.
Our 25th show is tomorrow night.
If you like Being There, I can give some Norwegian movie recommendations that are not quite like that, but something in the same alley. That was even scheduled for an American remake at one point. It was that popular. So let me know if you want something more diverse in the movie introduction sphere.
I don't know how big a Woody Allen fan you are, but Bananas was always another one I used to love when it was on the early days of cable television. When I first got it was Bananas. They would run Bananas constantly on the movie channel.
I love Bananas. It's so good.
Yeah,
so fun. I'm a huge Woody Allen fan.
Oh, okay, good. So
we
park our shuttlecraft in the same bay then. So.
Yes. No, I'm a staunch Woody Allen supporter, and the shit that it's so crazy to me that he's still being pilloried when he was exonerated by 2 different states back when this happened 25 years or 26 years ago or something. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah. Culture Casino sent us a $1.49 super sticker. Thank you so much, sir. He's actually hanging out in the back here. He didn't get a chance to bring it. We'll have him on the show real soon. Mr. Another $2. $2 for Rim Job Rob to watch Ghostbusters 2016. Rim Job Rob is a callback to Anna's stream yesterday.
Let's make that happen.
That was some gentleman's name on there. It was actually Rim Job Bob.
Rim Job
But we
Bob.
said Rob has to make one because he goes, I'm going to go make one now.
Let's see if I can get it. See if it comes up on the band name.
We said it sounded like a car salesman. It's like, I'm Rim Job Bob. I'll lick your butt for a deal.
Oh, that's going to be the sequel to Used Cars. There you go.
Oh, I haven't seen that in ages. Oh, man.
Oh, but I again want to thank everybody here on the panel, especially Robert Meyer Burnett for taking the time as always with us. And I want to send everybody away with a smile. Hey, everyone, we found June.
Oh, God.
Because, it just can't get much worse than this, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
I just thought we needed a little bit of a smile there. It could be worse, right?
And then came the Murder Hornets.
Yeah, right. No kidding. And then we also got one from Willie Woodward here as well. I missed, it looks like. Willie Woodward doing my elderly check-in for Rob. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
What? Pee-wee said what? What?
So, of course, check out Stephen Walton. He has his own channel as well. And a Script Doctor has his channel as well. Check out the main channel. Rob has his Robot Shlomo channel. Check that out. But, of course, if you have not checked out the Burnett work, there is not a better place to be every afternoon than with Rob telling his tales and reading his letters and giving his reviews and takes on the latest news. I try to catch it whenever I can.
Yeah, but I got to watch
no
a Midnight's Edge video before I went live today, so don't forget about I love watching.
But one day I miss you because I was gone, and I actually happened to be able to get out for once, and because I had to go get a new phone and a few other things like grocery wise and stuff, and then sure I miss it. And you talked about us probably.
Yeah. And you know what, Robert? That Midnight's Edge video right now has an end screen advertisement for your video.
Oh, really? I'm
Yeah.
going to go put your video on there on my end screen then. I'm going to do that right now since
There
I
you go.
have it up. I love it.
And I did it
Yes.
while we were talking. So, yeah.
I'm going to get the link for the Burnett work either way in the chat. And I do implore everybody check out the Burnett work and Script Doctor and Stephen Walton. And we got Culture Casino in the back. Check out him too. Steve Kenobi was supposed to be on with us as well, but we got full up. So I apologize to him, but also check out his channel, even though he doesn't want you to. Robert Levito, who's been sending us money all night, sent us $5. I imagine Rim Job Rob's used cars would be like the Big Billy Hell's YouTube video. I got to check that out. Evidently, I've not seen that. But I can imagine it's probably something worth checking out. I'll have to send that to Christy. She'll probably like that one. All right. Was there anything else we needed to cover, Andre, before we go?
No, I think that's about it. I would just like to reiterate what you said. Thanks to everyone in the chat for watching us. Thanks to the panel, especially thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett. Everyone, do check out his channel and daily live shows. The stuff that we cover at Midnight's Edge very often has a negative slant. Not because we want it to have, but because it's like, oh, so frustrating to see the corporate shenanigans and how it destroys what ends up on screen. So to counter that with some positivity, head on over to the network and just for the sheer unbridled joy.
And so, I'm about to get the link for that. Yeah. But while I'm getting the link for that, Rob, I think we earned a minimum effort puppy. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right, give me some music.
I don't have my sound effects. So.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. No more. Stop. Enough.
Oh.
Okay. we got the puppy. That's enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll check you next time.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.